I believe I'm live. Oh, gotta mute the desktop audio, or the, I really should have started a little bit earlier, not going to lie. Okay. I have to get some music started. Alright, we are set. I was originally not liking this drawing very much, but I'm starting to have a vision for what it might look like finally. So I'm encouraged to get back into it. Basically, what I don't like about it is that I made the trees in the foreground the same layer and same color as this little crumbling castle tower behind it. And that's generally kind of a no-no decision. I don't know why I did that. I think I was just being lazy or silly. But now I'm thinking that it might actually be a blessing in disguise, because it'll make it so that the tower is, or the crumbling tower that's drawn here, is not very well clearly indicated, as well as the tree, so that they're going to blend into each other, and that blending foreground is going to make a foreground for what's going to be a landscape above and behind it. Or that's the general idea that I have. So that's what we're going to be doing for the next couple hours. I'm going to share this on Twitter real quick. Perfect. Okay. It's a beautiful day outside. I'm sorry I'm going to be missing the rest of it, but, you know, you gotta work. You gotta do stuff. Gotta start sometime. You know, I have such a hard time getting started in the days. And I've been telling myself, if I just got started earlier, I'd be done sooner. But that's not... it's not how my brain works, I think, sometimes. going to try to indicate all of this less because it's more in shadow. It's definitely one thing I can get stronger at, is indicating levels of lighting, not overdrawing. If I really want to get like good viewership and everything, I'm going to have to start telling people when I'm going to stream, and to do that means I have to have a schedule for when I'm going to stream, and to do that it means I have to have a lifestyle and sort of a mindset of just scheduling myself ahead of time. That's not generally been something I've enjoyed doing, so that's definitely an area for growth. One thing I'm going to have to do is start recording more long looping ambient pieces to have with these live streams. A lot of drop frames, I'm not liking that. grab some coffee. You know what? I thought I'd made more coffee, but I didn't. The pot was empty, so I just had to fill the pot. One of life's sorrows. Expecting coffee and there being none. It's not a sorrow even, it's an atrocity. Alright, my coffee should be done. Go grab that real quick. have to save it. one side of the foreground down. Now to do the left side. Thank you, Noble. Once I get a good webcam, I definitely plan on start streaming traditional art, where I get back into the India ink and do these kinds of drawings on paper. I think that would be more adventurous and fun for viewers, honestly, because there's that risk of screwing up. Might be more visually appealing as well. I'm going to double check and make sure. I think there's somebody in my household that needs a quick hand, so I'm going to take a 5-minute break and be right back. I've returned. Definitely liking where this is going. I like how this drawing was something that I was very much not a fan of starting out today, and it's transitioning slowly into something that I actually kind of like. Hey, how you doing? You've popped into almost all my streams the last month, which is pretty kind of you. How you doing? Fantastic. It's a beautiful day where I'm at. A little colder, but very sunny. Windows open. But it's the weekend, so no work today, so I gotta work on art. I don't think I've really streamed at all on a weekend the last, probably since I got back from Puerto Rico. And, that's gotta change. I really gotta do at least one stream every weekend, I think. Not just for streaming's sake, but for drawing's sake. I need new drawings in the assembly line so I can do more creative stuff. Saw Dune 2. That was pretty epic. Oh, that's very kind of you to say. I hope that's a good thing. Let me tell you, I did not used to be this way. It was in my early 20s that I realized that I had to chill out and actually make things instead of just meander through life, consuming. How does it compare to the other two? You mean the other Dune movies? There was the David Lynch Dune movie, and then there's the mini-series on Sci-Fi in the 90s. I've seen both. The new Dune is the movie that came out in 2021, and then Dune 2, which is in theaters right now. And the newest version that's out right now, Dune 2, is the best. And it's not even a close contest. Dune by David Lynch is kinda, it looks, the Dune, I think the original Dune in the 1980s looked really good. It's like, I think David Lynch wanted to make 10 Commandments in space and like homage, like a lot of the old religious movies from the golden era of Hollywood, Ben-Hur and that kind of thing. But I think especially the 10 Commandments. I think he wanted to kind of write a love letter to that era of Hollywood, and I think it looks amazing, but it's not a really good Dune adaptation, and it's very well documented that the 1980s version had issues with the producer and David Lynch, the director, having different visions for what the movie should look like, so it was far too short to tell the story, and the ending did not land. Also, I think the acting, maybe, I think some of the actors, and maybe David Lynch's vision for how the actors should perform, was a little bit too goody two-shoes. I don't know. I think a lot of people expected it to be Star Wars, because Star Wars was very heavily influenced by Dune the book, and that 1980s version just did not land. It's a pretty flawed take on it. The miniseries, I think I liked it when I was a kid. It was very hyper-violent. It was kind of like the Game of Thrones TV series, where it was very fan-servicey and cheap, kind of, where it was just trying to get people to watch it because it was kind of exploitative. I don't remember a lot about it, except that I kind of liked it at the time. I was like a kid. I didn't get to watch the whole thing. My parents censored a lot of it for me. I don't think I'd ever watch it again. The Dune Messiah and Children of Dune that branched off of it, however, are very good cable TV shows that I would recommend. They're a little weird and a little campy, but for cable TV shows, they're pretty good. Dune 2001, I thought was rushed. Like it was short. It was 2.5 hours, and I really think adapting Dune the book fully would require 3 or 4 movies. But Denis Villeneuve decided to do 2 movies. I think that's what he thought was possible and what he was physically and mentally capable of doing, which is understandable. And so they had to edit out a lot of my favorite parts of the book. Like they edited out the Mentat, Thurfer Huat, almost entirely. He shows up in like 10 seconds of the first movie. And not at all in the second movie. That was sad. I said 2001, I meant 2021. So the newest version of Dune is split up into 2 movies. One that came out in 2021, and then the one that's in theaters right now is the second half. So that's what I meant. Sorry, I misspoke. But anyway, I think the sci-fi TV show was either late 90s or early 2000s. I have to look that up. It might actually, the miniseries might have been around 2021 or 2022. When I'm off stream, I'll Wikipedia it. Anyway, so the second Dune movie was also about 2.5 hours, which is not a lot of time to cover all the stuff of the books. So they cut a lot out, but I think they cut out things in a way to where it just felt very well edited and very fast paced. So yeah, they just cut out a ton of content. They cut out a lot of characters. They cut out a lot of nerdy expositional stuff. Denis Villeneuve is very good at showing and not telling in all of his movies, and he did such a good job with this one. All the acting performances in Dune 2 were amazing. I was worried about Zendaya. She's a great actress, but I didn't know if she was going to be a fit for that role. But she proved me wrong. She was fantastic. She was perfect. And I think it's because she didn't try to change. She didn't do any weird accents. She didn't try to be different. She just basically played like herself, and it just worked very good. It had a great flow. Timothée Chalamet was fantastic, very nuanced. I felt the end was maybe a little bit rushed, but I think that might have been because the director wanted to keep the audience in a state of shock and keep them unbalanced, so it just delivered a lot of punches really quickly. The ending wasn't quite the same as the book. It channeled more what was to come with Dune Messiah, where it kind of said the quiet parts out loud, that maybe Paul Atreides wasn't a perfect character. Maybe what was happening was kind of negative. No, it was really good. It was really impressive. The visuals and the action were mostly fantastic. My big critique of the movie, I would say, is that except for a couple scenes, I didn't think the bad guys were scary enough. It was a little bit of a power fantasy, and the book was this way too. Sometimes it just got too like Paul Atreides in the book was too much of a Mary Sue and too much of a perfect character, and that didn't really change until Dune Messiah, where like the cracks started to show, flaws in his character started to show. This movie does a better job making him less of a Mary Sue, but I still felt like that sometimes like the bad guys couldn't do anything right, and it's just a flaw that a lot of movies do, where they make the stormtroopers always miss, or like the enemy's got to be absolutely, like, the antagonists have got to absolutely be terrifying, in my opinion. They got to be like, the T-Rex from Jurassic Park, or the Terminator, or the iceberg in Titanic. They got to be like almost inevitable, like Anton Chigurh in No Country for Old Men. So I think that's the one area where Dune maybe wasn't as good as it could have been. Or Darth Vader from Empire Strikes Back. Darth Vader kind of seems mortal at parts, and then he shows that, I was actually just tricking you. Like, I'm just toying with you, like toying with my food, kind of a thing. So yeah, it was a good movie. It wasn't perfect. It was definitely visually one of the best movies I've seen in a long time. It looked perfect. I think it's the first movie I've seen since Avatar 2. Alright, we've reached the point where I'm going to have to start drawing on a new layer. Save this. Alright. Yeah, it's amazing how great the original trilogy was, especially Empire Strikes Back. One of the best crafted villains ever, and I think the reason that Anton Chigurh and Darth Vader are so well respected until today is, first, their inevitability, their complexity, and especially in the case of Darth Vader, doesn't have a lot of screen time, so it allows our imagination about who these characters are kind of pave the way. I think that's a big aspect people miss. Darth Vader isn't on screen very much in the first Star Wars, and to tell you the truth, he wasn't as good of a villain. In Empire Strikes Back, he shows his emotions in kind of in like this interesting, subtle way. He's definitely very evil, but he's evil in a way where we can kind of relate to him. Like, he hates incompetency and is just very impatient and very singular in looking for his goals. And when he's like choking out, Imperial admirals, we don't really hate him because, like, we don't like those admirals either. So it's so interesting where you almost start like not rooting for him because he's evil and terrible, but he's like, you get him. You get him on, like, the antagonist is striving for his goal, or their goal, just as much as the hero. And you're interested to see how he accomplishes it. And, yeah, definitely makes Darth Vader such an interesting protagonist. I think that's what's good about the Terminator too. Like, the Terminator doesn't get just what they want. They have to do a lot of striving. Sometimes I feel a lot of villains are just like punching bags. They're set up as being like the bad guy, but you don't really spend a lot of time viewing them trying to accomplish their their ends or their goals. Like Anton Chigurh, like you spend a lot of time, he's just trying to find Llewellyn Moss. And you don't identify him, you think he's evil, you hate him, you think he's terrible, but you're curious how he's going to just accomplish his goals, or if he's going to accomplish his goals, and watching his methodology and learning from him. I didn't like Gone Girl when it came out, but one thing I will give it is that it is a movie more about the antagonists and their goals rather than the hero and their goals. There really isn't a hero in Gone Girl. Her trying to accomplish her goals is kind of takes up a lot of the movie, and that was interesting. Don't really like that movie though. Maybe I have to watch it again. It's been probably about 5 or 6 years since I watched it. Or longer. Man, time flies. So yeah, you got me info dumping about movies. Are the trees supposed to be modeled after something in particular? I think that's modeled. The stupid heart icon's in the way of what you wrote. I don't use any references, if that's what you're asking. I have a general shape of trees that I kind of draw over and over again, that I've kind of developed over like the last 8 or 9 years. And I generally would spend like a lot of time like looking at trees on my runs and stuff. And I just kind of like try to mentally memorize little things about them that I like. And just replicate that, I guess. You weren't here for the beginning of the stream, but basically you got two or three trees sort of interwoven with this crumbling tower. And I was going to abandon this drawing because these trees and the tower weren't on different layers, so they couldn't really be distinguished from each other, but I decided that it was better if they all kind of blended together, because they're all going to serve as a foreground, so they don't necessarily need to stand apart from each other. And then I'm going to have something in the background and above and to the sides, and see how that develops. So I'm gonna have to like look at this a little bit and see how I'm gonna do this, because it's not currently turning out the way I was originally visualizing it, and it rarely does. Oh, there's not a particular species that looks like this. I look at a lot of oak trees. What's the line in All the Pretty Horses where the guy asks what kind of horses are in a painting? The ranch guy who was asked the question said, "Oh, those aren't real horses, those are storybook horses." The artist just combined a bunch of horses together and just kind of painted them. It's kind of how I draw and I paint. I don't like, oh, this is an oak tree, or oh, this is a willow. I would say in general, I draw 3 kinds of trees, or 4 kinds of trees. I draw oaks, I draw willows, draw pine and poplar, and then I combine the 4 of those into fake made-up trees that don't really exist. Like the oak trees could be maple trees. Like I just, when I look at an oak or a maple tree, I just kind of like combine them, and then they get like sort of aspects to them that are like willow trees. They exist in an alternate fantasy universe in my brain, though, so they don't need to be accurate. Alright. I'm gonna be right back. I gotta take a bathroom break. I'm back. Okay. So, have you seen any interesting movies lately that I should be looking out for? I don't feel like I've been watching that many movies the last really 4 or 5 years. I'll see like the big ones. I didn't even watch Oppenheimer or Barbie last year. Mirror Mask is. I feel like I recognize that name. Is that a movie that came out like 15 years ago or so? That's kind of like surreal, or am I thinking of something else? Yeah, that sounds about right. I've seen the cover. I thought it looked interesting, but I never could actually start it and watch it. I feel like that description though has been every single time someone's talked to me about it. Like, yeah, it was weird, but not super good. Yeah, it's interesting. I wonder what audience a movie like that is for. I like some trippy movies, and I love like surrealism in general. But movies that are just trippy or surreal to be trippy, weird, and surreal for that own sake, I'm not a huge fan of. Like, I love Mulholland Drive, but I don't really like Jodorowsky. And that might be just because I don't get him. Um, but I don't know what he's going for, and I'm not a huge fan of like his style of symbolism. I don't really like acid movies, I don't think. Well, I love surrealism. I just like it to describe an emotional journey. Like, I'm a pretty big Haruki Murakami fan, and I feel like the surrealism in his books are in place of the emotional voids in his characters' lives. Like, a lot of his characters have emotional, um, like they're emotionally set back or held back, and they don't necessarily know how to deal with certain emotions. So the surrealism pops up to try to help them figure out what's going on internally that they can't figure out for themselves. That's a good example of surrealism. I think dreamlike imagery is a great storytelling tool. Like anything by David Lynch, really. Twin Peaks is a great example. But it's for the purpose of like storytelling or understanding a character or a world, and it's not really just being crazy for the sake of being crazy. I think like a lot of people think that David Lynch is trying to be crazy for its own sake, and I don't think that's the case. I think he's got a storytelling purpose behind it. People certainly can be surreal for its own sake and be wacky and abstract for just for the heck of it. There's certainly nothing wrong with it. I just don't personally enjoy it very much. Sometimes, you just have to explore aesthetics without a clear modernistic purpose. Like, I used to draw a lot of just abstract stuff for the sake of it, and I just like the visuals of it. There's nothing wrong with it in particular. It's just I don't know. Don't know if it's just maybe not for me. It's a preference thing. The surrealism in Andrei Tarkovsky's Solaris and The Mirror and Stalker are all really awesome in my opinion. And I think they all basically exist to tell the story. Or just to get in the emotional headspace of the characters, or sort of convey the issues of that world. I think especially Andrei Tarkovsky, like, he couldn't be super openly critical of his government because then he wouldn't get film funding. He couldn't really be critical of like society. So surrealism can also be kind of a pathway to get into commentary that the audience can, I guess, kind of grapple with without being overtly called out by, media or by government or by censors. Kind of works in a similar way of a parable where, you kind of select the audience you want. The medium is not necessarily the message, but the medium gets the message to the intended audience. Not for sure, just a possibility. Canvas of near infinite size. Well, I mean, digital art really could be such a canvas. I mean, you always can make a canvas larger. And they have like the infinite canvas apps, which I don't know how to use and I've never used, but it was like a meme on Instagram for a while where people would just like keep zooming in. That's a good question though. What if I had a near infinite canvas? I would have a lot of drawing to do. Sometimes I try to intentionally limit a canvas because that forces framing. Right now I don't have a forced canvas. It's I can expand this as much as I want. So this drawing really has nothing holding it in place and nothing to really tell me, okay, where should things go. It makes it much more difficult to visualize. But with that lack of constriction also comes a certain freedom. Like if I feel like, oh, I can either go wander off in this direction, I could if I wanted to. So if I had a near infinite canvas, which I really feel like I already have, I would be in the position where I'd be struggling to compose. Because art really is about focus. It's about picking this place, this thing, this moment out of all time. We're going to focus on that. And all these other infinite things that are going to fall away for this moment in time. And we're going to be focusing on this thing instead. You could, but it'd be like, an infinite canvas is basically a video game. You are dropped in a world and you keep moving through space. And if I had an infinite canvas, then I would have to force framing by taking that infinite canvas and just cutting out everything but little pieces, framing it like a photograph or something like that. But, you know, like, part of the reason why, you know, I've gotten into Blender recently is I want the canvas to expand. I want to take individual drawings that I do and I want to explore them more in depth. I wanted to put them in a larger context. So I guess the answer is I have an infinite canvas. I'm choosing not to use it because I think the inherent nature of art is to focus, to reduce the noise, to narrow down. Also, an infinite canvas require an infinite amount of work to draw. But, I mean, if you think about it, this is an almost infinite canvas. You know, a PNG image, I think, goes to the size of, like, Rhode Island in size. That's how big a PNG image can be on a computer, if you have the big enough hard drive. So I keep scrolling out. I can just, I can hit canvas. Hold on, actually, I think it's canvas size. I can add 10,000 pixels. See actually what happens to my computer when I do this. Oh, this actually exceeds maximum size. Okay, so 16 by 382 pixels is actually my limit. Now we know. So... Wait, but hold on. That would be smaller than that. Oh no, when it's 5,000. Let's see. Ooh. There we go. That's my near infinite canvas. I'm sure you can make a video that has a pseudo infinite canvas. But for now, this is what I got. It's actually smaller than I was expecting. I'm surprised. I kind of draw with a large canvas to begin with, because I want things to be in a high quality for prints eventually, because I'll eventually start making prints. It's a meme I saw on Reddit, I think. It was like a size chart, either on Reddit or YouTube. I can't remember when and where I saw it. All right. I'm going to paint on the more regular size canvas though, because I do not want my image or my program crashing. Actually, I better save it. I've done lots of weird things on my computer and then just had like an art piece crash and lose tons of work because I didn't save. Because I was goofing off trying to do something cool or funny. Don't want to be in that situation today. But yeah, it's interesting. If you look at video games as like an infinite canvas or a near infinite canvas, it does make things like in-game photography kind of interesting to me. I think people have come up with really great work. Also an infinite canvas. This is kind of probably a controversial take, but one reason I've gotten into Stable Diffusion is that I can put my drawings into Stable Diffusion and have an infinite number of iterations of them. And I don't think the outputs are particularly compelling to me, but it's a compelling concept that I can spend time working on something and then like expand them almost in a three-dimensional space. So I've explored that a little bit. Some of my videos on YouTube include stable diffusion in the workflow. I have. The results have not been super good. Stable Diffusion has a feature called, I think, Describe Clip, where you take an image and you place it in the, whatchamacallit, the, like a prompt window, and then you just basically hit a Describe Clip button, and it will describe kind of what your drawing looks like, and then take that prompt and put it into image gen and hit the button, and it'll pop something out, and it can kind of get some things, but really how Stable Diffusion works is basically it sort of samples art that it's studied across the internet in its data set, and it just basically uses a lot of very vague generalities. If you have a more well-honed model, like a special model like an anime model or a CGI looking model or a really hyper-tailored model like Midjourney, then it will imitate the data that it's been extra trained on, and then it will make art that appears like more like its data set, and it'll be better looking. But to get it to look like my art, I would need to take my art and train something called a LoRa, which is like low order reference something. I don't know what it stands for. I think it's like lower order though. Basically, it's like an append onto the Stable Diffusion model, and then you might be able to get Stable Diffusion to get your art more without a reference. But that's basically because you fed your art data into the beast. So because AI isn't actually artificial intelligence and it's not really creative, it wouldn't be able to get my art because without a reference, because it's not creative in and of itself. It only can draw from that which it's sampled. So it would need a lot of references. It would need a lot of quote-unquote training. It would need a lot of my art to be thrown into the pot for it to sample from. I really don't view AI as actually being AI. I view AI as being a sort of like a matrix-based TensorFlow guessing program that guesses well by having the opportunity to guess millions of times. It's basically denoising for like intentions. It's like a very complex semi-guided denoiser with lots of information to draw from. That's my understanding of it. So yes, I've tried. The results have been mixed. It was a fun project. Sometimes what I really find to be valuable is to feed it into basically do retrieve clip with my drawings, because sometimes I don't know if people know what my drawings are. Like, do they know this is a castle tower and not a tree stump kind of a thing? So I'll put it into Stable Diffusion and ask what it sees, just as a way of like, okay, if the Stable Diffusion knows what it is, hopefully my audience also knows that it's a castle and not like a bird or something. I'll quick kind of I'll pause this music real quick, and I will bring up my channel and show you some of the stuff I've done with Stable Diffusion. Alright. So this was originally a drawing I did. I fed it into Stable Diffusion, and it created, I think I basically prompted it to say, make this tree look like it's made out of candle wax and look like it's haunted. And then it took my drawing and turned it into this, and then I did image to image to create like 50 different images to make into a video. And then I started turning the noise up to make it more distorted so that Stable Diffusion couldn't tell what the drawing was anymore, so now it's contorting more. And then I added my music on top of it, and I obviously edited this a ton in like DaVinci Resolve and stuff. But that's basically what my AI workflow is take my drawings and then have Stable Diffusion take a run at it, and then like do creative things with like the denoising and stuff to make it so Stable Diffusion gets confused and makes the wrong thing. Just kind of try to make it into a very flexible renderer. That's basically my philosophy. There's ethical concerns with AI, like is it stealing from artists? And sometimes I think it is, and sometimes I think it isn't. It really comes down to where it's getting the data from, how wide of a net is it casting, is it just learning from a very wide stuff it finds on the internet, or is it really focusing on two or three specific artists? So it's yeah, it's an interesting playground to be in because we haven't figured out what's right and what's wrong and decided what to do with it. But yeah, anyway, we're like we're learning, we're exploring, and I at least want the pro to understand it and use it a lot, so that like if people start saying, "Oh, Stable Diffusion is just a better art than artists," like I'll know if that's true or not because I've used it myself and I've tried to push it to its extremes with my own art, and I'll just like know from first-hand experience. All right, does this thing actually work or not? Is it going to replace artists? Is it the future, or is it a bunch of like snake oil? And I think the answer is somewhere between the two extremes. Like sometimes it's snake oil, sometimes it's just like it's garbage, other times it's a real tool. Yeah, no, you can't always worry about people. People have concerns though, and like they're not all bad concerns. Like some artists are scared, and some artists are upset. Certain like really famous artists have been stolen from, and they get bullied by the Stable Diffusion users sometimes, and you kind of have to see both sides of it and be like, okay, this is a really cool tool, but you know, like all new tools, people are going to use it in very irresponsible ways, and we just gotta like I want to consume and kind of understand and be along for the ride for how we discover how this tool is going to be used. I guess that's my mentality at the moment. Alright, gonna go back to the music. But yeah, talking about this kind of stuff is so intriguing for me and so enjoyable. Like I could talk about it for hours. I might start posting some opinion videos on AI, but I feel like I'm not super knowledgeable compared to other people. And I don't know if I want to start a ruckus if I don't want to like be there for the entire journey. Because like you said, it's going to make somebody mad. And do I want to just be dealing with the fallout of people blowing up my channels? Not because they like what I'm doing, but because, you know, they got opinions on things. I generally want to like be encouraging more positive energy and, you know, creating controversy for views and stuff. I think that would wear me out quick. think I'm going to start even a new layer. Not yet, but soon. Gotta thank you a bunch, Vucky, for asking all these interesting questions. You definitely made the stream very fun for me. It's always fun to talk about different stuff. Just drawing can get a little bit boring for me, not gonna lie. I think it's just gonna be another tower. Originally what I had planned was that this white set of trees and tower was gonna be a foreground, and there's gonna be like a landscape behind it with kind of like a castle tower in the corner. What's kind of ended up happening is this other towers kind of obscured that, so this is gonna be a keep of some kind, like a larger building, and then the other layer is going to be hills and towers kind of like in the distance. Also more like background trees. And there's going to be finally a fourth layer, maybe with like a starry sky or something. I haven't decided. I've drew this tower right over this tower, and that's kind of like compositionally not super awesome. So I want to change that in some way. But we'll see how I do that, if at all. We shall see. I do try to be interesting. I don't know if you meant it this way, but my goal for my social media, especially my YouTube, was to be somebody who does interesting, cool stuff. Whether it be with Blender, music, drawing, AI stuff, or storytelling. Just constantly have things like in the frying pan, on the stove, new stuff. I want to be a producer, not a consumer. That's another goal I had. I do like movies and video games and books and all that consuming stuff that, you know, is there to be had. But I do want to make things. It's a goal as I, like, you know, get older. I want to be somebody who is a maker, not just a consumer. Someone who leaves a legacy, not just basks in the glow of others. It might tire me out, but honestly, I think the thing that tires me out most in life is not succeeding where I want to succeed, and there's no greater cure for failure than trying again, and sometimes failing again. If you get knocked down, you kind of got to get back on the horse, and I think people living lives kind of with more meaning, or where you're doing things, I think that can give life purpose and give life enjoyment. Honestly, if I wasn't drawing right now, I'd just be like staring off into space and reliving bad memories. So it's like, why do that when I could make something instead? Why relive, like, the person that I could have been when I would rather just try to be something now with the life that I have? Biggest struggle for me is getting started, honestly. I don't feel like I'm overworked at all or strained, but getting started in the day, that can be tough. Once I get started, though, hard to slow me down. It's like, going for a run. Like getting out the door to go running is the hardest part, and then running the first 2 miles is the second hardest part. And then it's easy until you hit like mile 10 or 11. Then, the body starts saying that, oh, okay, this is actually as much as I can do. That's kind of the way it is with me for everything. Get me started and we're golden. Decisions. Interesting. Farthest from home. For me, I think home life can kind of wore me out and was discouraging and negative for me. So, for me, I, tried to create a life where I wasn't there as much as possible. But now that I've kind of created a home for myself, a place where I'm safe and able to do what I think is important in life, I think that would be maybe a little bit more true. I suppose it's different if you have a place or not, that you feel safe and feel like you can be yourself. That wasn't me for most of my life. For most of my life, I needed to, get jobs and do things that took me away from home. Not that home was terrible or anything like that, but I certainly couldn't be who I wanted to be, do what I wanted to do. I was always kind of looking over my shoulder, and my emotions and my feelings weren't really the priority. Wasn't all bad. There's some very good things about it, and there's people I miss. I think where I am right now is more like home, like an actual home. But the thing I miss about it is more solitary, so some of the people I really valuable aren't in it anymore. So I'm far away from them, and some of them are dead, so I'm really far away from them. And I think the thing that makes me feel sad is I can't bring all the people that I know to be safe and be good for me. I can't bring them to where I am at all the time. I kind of have to depend on myself now. So it's interesting, far away from home. What is home, though? Like, my home used to be kind of not such a super safe place. Um, but now I'm safer, but some of the people that I want in my life and want in my home, they are for one reason or other not near me and can't be beckoned or won't be beckoned. So am I farther away from home now, or was I then? That's the question. Do you feel like you're far away from home now? That's a good question. Partially because they're living their own lives. They're, maybe they're married, maybe they have kids. Maybe they live across the country. Maybe they're a friend, but it used to be I lived in a household with lots of people. Now I don't. I'm more solitary, meaning I have more control over how I live my daily life, and I'm able to only allow healthy people around me. But there are people that I used to have easy access to that, they've gotten married, they've gotten kids, they have jobs, they've moved across the country. They're just not there anymore. But they were people that I used to consider to be a part of my, I guess, home life. A weird house thing that shows up in your dreams. I get a lot of those dreams where I'm trying to find somewhere safe to sleep, or I'm moving to a new house, or I'm buying a house, or I'm going on vacation with my childhood family, trying to figure out where I should put my stuff. I have a lot of house dreams. Dream of going to my childhood house that I grew up in, even though in real life it got torn down years ago. I dream about going back there all the time. Dream about my grandma's farmhouse. Oh yeah, no, I see a lot of them. They're great people. I try to keep in contact with family. It's not the same though. I used to live a very enmeshed, I probably honestly still do, but enmeshed life with various family and friends. The plus side of that is you had people available to me. I had people available to me all the time. Basically, just needed to walk to another room. Times change. My childhood house had a make and model. It was like a, I don't know if you live in the United States or not. I think you mentioned not living in the United States. I can't remember. But it was kind of a old house that got stuccoed over, like it was made out of wood, and then they just stuccoed over it. But 2 stories. sad reality is this tower, the second tower that I drew, is way too big. Oh, okay. I've never been to Georgia, except I might have landed in an airport there, but no, I think the closest I've been to Georgia, I think, is landing in North Carolina and Florida. I don't think I've ever been in Georgia, even on even the airport. I think the weather you guys get there is quite a bit different than the weather I get here. No, it was an old regular house, like built on a foundation. It wasn't a mobile home. I think it was built probably around the turn of the century. You don't really want to live in a mobile home or like a trailer park in Minnesota. It gets so cold. You really want to have a house with lots of insulation. Otherwise, your heating bill is going to be just catastrophic. So, I think like manufactured homes are a lot less common in Minnesota. You just need something with lots of insulation space. Did I hit the... Oh, I doubled the speed on my freaking video. That's funny. It's like, what is wrong with this? One cool thing about my childhood house was that it had the furnace in the living room. So we'd be sitting by the TV watching TV, and you could get like the warm seat next to the furnace whenever it kicked on. So we'd be watching Star Trek and the X-Files and just waiting for the furnace to kick on because we were cold and stuff. That was a good aspect of that house. That was generally pretty positive. Everything, the house itself was pretty fun. It was kind of old. Um, I went to my sister's house for a birthday for a nephew, and they have like a lot of they use a lot of the stuff that I had growing up as a kid. So I'll see like various toys and be like, "Hey, I remember that." It's kind of fun. Question is, do I want things to be moved a little bit, or don't I? No, I'm sure a lot of it goes in the waste, the landfills. I still have a lot of my old childhood stuff because I'm a bit of a hoarder. And I'm also processing, certain stuff in my life, so it's hard to let go of old things, but I need to let go and get rid of like a lot of my old stuff from my I guess my past life. I haven't decided if it's going to get burned or thrown away or what. But it's all kind of like weights around my ankles. It's been about 3 hours. I think I'm going to call it a night as far as the streaming goes. I have to eat supper, so I'm going to go do that. I really appreciate all the people who got on and spoke to me and watched. I hate to get off now because I feel like I have good momentum, but I am actually genuinely kind of tired and hungry, so hopefully I will be doing this again very shortly.